Thank you all for joining us. I'm really excited about this one. Oh, one second. Got Talan Torriero here, who we've known each other for some years. Talan led creative at Ready Set and now leading performance creative at Fantastic. Welcome.
I appreciate it. It's pretty cool to come full circle. You know, I mean, I originally started in social media marketing for America's Funniest Home Videos, and I knew I had to find my way into paid. And you guys took a chance on me when you were starting the agency, and it's just kind of been my life ever since, right? So I appreciate you guys.
It's my favorite thing to do is take a chance on. I'm going to give up on this microphone. It's my favorite thing to do to take a chance on people, and you were an easy one to do. But just for everyone, so agenda-wise, y'all, we're going to be getting into a lot of really awesome stuff on this screen share. Talan's going to share ads that have worked for True Classic, ones that haven't, and why. We're going to talk about ROAS as a metric. He's going to share his whole framework for how they come up with ideas, test ideas, scale the account, how to get scrappy in making UGC video. So much to cover. But give us a little more context on you, because you have a really fascinating background. You started in front of the camera. Maybe you could tell that story briefly, and then sort of your journey building your career up to this awesome role you have now.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a pretty long story. You can see I have gray hairs in my beard now, so I'm getting old, and my time just keeps going on. It goes by pretty fast. But yeah, basically, you know, I moved to LA, and I worked for. I was fortunate that, you know, I was on TV, so I got to do the whole Hollywood thing, and I found a likeness to writing and screenwriting, particularly adapting books into screenplays. And I adapted a book called Fat Kid Rules the World, and it ended up winning the Audience Award at South by Southwest, which was pretty cool. But
amazing.
Being a writer in Hollywood, as fancy as it sounds, it's just a lot of, you know, you get
waiting.
Small deals, exactly. But you know, some scripts sit on yours for years. And I realized, you know, I was really interested in the idea of being creative, and there were jobs out there where you could still be creative. And I went and worked for a guy named Akiva Goldsman. He was an Academy Award-winning producer, did like I Am Legend. And while I was there, Facebook was new. And I said, we should make some fan pages for your movies. And he's like, I don't even know what that is, but just go do it. And I grew these.
You started early in social then.
Yeah, it was just by accident. And I grew the fan pages for his movies so big that Warner Brothers was like, who is this kid and what is he doing? And I realized, wow, this is pretty big, right? And so I went and worked for America's Funniest Home Videos, who I consider the original, you know, UGC, right? Like they had 1 million videos, and we uploaded them all to YouTube through some partners, and monetized our library, and grew America's Funniest Home Videos into like the new generation, right, that uses the internet and things like that to consume media. And from there, I realized, oh my gosh, I got to get on the paid side. You know, organic is fun, but paid is really where, you know, you can force viewership. And I liked the idea of that. And so I was just fortunate to find myself at Ready Set. And for me, like, I have been so blessed in my life to have such amazing mentors. Like Aaron Kahn, for me, was such an amazing mentor. I know he's not a cup of tea for everybody, but for me, like he's the guy who did, for you guys that don't know, he did Hip Hop Abs and Proactive, and he's like the original, you know, you remember those infomercials when the early 2000s for like Copper Pan, like just those fundamentals of, you know, those late night TV commercials. I learned so much about direct response from him, and it was just a really rewarding experience.
And around the same time, I started to realize that it was more direct response UGC that works is more like an infomercial than a commercial. Like in the 100% of Ready Set, we were making what I call now like mini commercials. Like, oh, look at this concept's really funny. This guy's playing his mobile game so long that we pan across the fish tank and it's so cloudy on the glass and the fish have written help. Like funny, but not going to sell the mobile game.
Sure. And, you know, that's a really interesting thing to note, because I think a lot of times brand is a big buzzword, right, when it comes to making ads, right? And I think we really need to do a better job, or at least I like to do a better job of compartmentalizing brand and then first-time customers. I don't believe in brand unless you make over $25 million a year. I don't think you should care. And I know that's a very controversial statement. But I say this because my ads are never going to win awards in terms of like, they're not pretty. Most people cringe when they look at them, but they sell a crap load of product. And so I think you have to look at like, if I don't know who you are, why should I buy your product? Seeing your ad for the first time. And that's where direct response really lends itself. And then once they're inside of your funnel, you really then can, layer them on with like your branding through emails, through, different various ways you can just get them involved in your brand.
It's
but
funny you put it that way, because what would you say to the brand person, and that's where I came from originally, pre-Ready Set, that says, wait a minute, if they don't know who you are, you need to build a brand so they know who you are. That comes first.
100%. Yeah. I always joke that my arch nemesis at every company I work with is the head of creative or the head of branding. We end up being friends, but
I was going to say, you don't have arch nemesis. You're friends with everybody.
I really like to incorporate maybe some, like, what's really important is understanding kind of brand messaging, like, right? Like, how do we, but I'm just saying, like, from an aesthetic, like an ad that feels more brand with the fish going across the screen saying your brand, with the jet stream of the tail, like, that's not going to sell product, because we become so accustomed to to ads. And if we see an ad in our feed, we're gone, right? And so I think you need to make ads that don't feel like ads. And the way you incorporate the brand is like, maybe if the colors are like orange or whatever, maybe the background, behind your text is orange, or maybe your end card feels a little bit more in brand. But there are little nuances you can do. But again, like, I fight hard for performance. And I think that there's a good balance. You have someone who's creative and then someone who's really focused on performance. And you just kind of keep tugging at each other till you find that perfect middle ground.
Let's turn this into a visual in the spirit of screen share. Do you have an ad or two that's like into the performance? You called it, cringe, but it works. Maybe you've got something a little shinier. We could talk about
I don't have something cringe, because I won't make something not cringe, but I mean, I'm saying I won't make something that I would say is that won't perform. But this is a great example of an ad we do at True Classic. This is not an ad that I made, but this is an ad that a guy named Nicholas made about a year ago. Super talented guy, worked at Tube Science, but works here. And this is a perfect example, in my opinion, of an ad that feels very on brand. It's shot in studio. We have obviously the logo, things like that, but the performance is still in there. Like, the headline itself is, "This is why most t-shirts suck." And we're comparing it with a visual of other brands versus ours. I'll just go ahead and play it. And I know it's a very simple ad. And I know that you're like, well, I don't know if I'd buy a shirt from that. But the point is that, like, that ad works and it sells a lot of shirts. It's just very polished and it's very quick. And it really...
Polished in what sense do you mean? Like the beautiful, perfect
the way it's shot. Yeah, the lighting, the way it's shot. It's not on a phone, clearly. There's no testimonials. There's no... it just feels very branded. I don't know how to describe it, other than you look at that and you're like, oh, that's very branded. And then you look at maybe something along these lines, right? This is our one of our top performing ads at the moment. And this one's a little rougher around the edges.
Dad bods deserve better tees.
I found this brand called True Classic. It's your one-stop shop for men's fitted shirts.
I like the way that it's cut. I like the way that it fits my arms, nice and snug.
They hide my dad bod, accent all the right places.
I love the tees. I love their polos. I love them to work out. I love them to cook. They show off your biceps.
And I am not lying when I say that. Softest, most comfortable t-shirts I have ever felt.
They fit so much better. And I'm just going to get them a 3-pack while we're at it.
What shirt are you wearing?
I always wear these.
True Classic. Check them out for yourself at trueclassic.com.
So that ad is multi-testimonial, right? It presents you, with why our shirts are better than other shirts. I could get into that for a long time in terms of like what works and what doesn't for us.
When you say multi-testimonial, I think social proof. It's like, look at all these people.
Sure. Yes. Another way to put it. I think it's really important to find, the best testimonials obviously come from customers, but they tend not to have great lighting or they don't really know what they're doing. So a trick I've learned is use reviews from your product, right? So we'll go through reviews, find really great wild lines, and then we will send them to talent to say to camera. That's tends because it's hard to write a really good testimonial, right? It's hard to write, and that's a really important thing. Let's talk about that for a sec. So, you would never say, I think brands a lot want to say like, oh, this shirt is ultra soft. Like if I explained to you this shirt that it was ultra soft, I would never talk like that. I would say, oh, it's buttery soft, or oh, it's super soft. And I think
ridiculously soft.
That's a great one. Ridiculously is great too. I think as performance marketers, like we got to talk like people talk, and people don't talk like brands talk. And it's very obvious when it's like, ooh, this person is clearly reading lines off the screen.
One of my favorite little clips that I like to bring up and put in everyone's head on the creative side is the Truman Show, where she's like, oh, yeah, it's like why we should buy this new thing. And he goes, yes. Who are you talking to? It's like, 100%. If you showed up at the bar and we're like, my new t-shirts are ultra soft. They're flexible. That your friend would be like, what the heck is going on?
Antimicrobial, and maybe some people do talk like that, but there's an art form to writing really good lines for talent. And it's something that I actually don't think is that difficult. It's really just say the line out loud, or like say it to your wife, or say it to your boyfriend or your husband or whatever it is, and you'll be surprised. Like, I sound really stupid. Ooh, John, I can't hear you, John. You're muted. John, you're muted. Yep.
I was going to say, it's such a painful thing to do, which is why people don't do it. I'm talking about myself too, but like you write a line, it's, when I went to Miami Ad School to be a copywriter, and they taught us always, 100% of the time, before you go present it to your boss, whatever, read it out loud, say it out loud. And like 7 times out of 10, you'll be like, that does not sound like I talk. And it sounds bad. And you're right. People get hundreds of ads a day and their antenna goes up and they're gone.
And I think it's important to note from a copywriter perspective, like a lot of copywriters are taught to use the word you. So like you will look good in this shirt, or you will look amazing in this sweatshirt. You want to say I. You want to say I, and you want that person to become part of, envision themselves wearing it in a sense. I know that sounds really cheesy, but when you say the word I versus you, it's just, we see the numbers skyrocket much higher, right? So,
I completely agree. And you can imagine why this is, by the way. If I said to you, like literally feel how you feel. If I say, Talan, you need to try this vacuum cleaner. Like you've heard about Dyson. You probably have a Dyson. This one's better. You need to try it. Like, you're like, okay, dude, like telling me what to do here. Whereas if I said to you, Talan, I just got this new vacuum cleaner by so-and-so. I had a Dyson. It's literally in my trash out bag. My wife was just saying to me about, it's like, you're leaning in and you're like, oh, maybe I should get this vacuum cleaner.
And I like that you said my wife, right? Like, I think the more you make it more personal, the better, because people, the more personal the line is, the more that realistic it is, right? So, again, I could go on that for hours, but I think that it's an art form in a sense to write really good lines. But once you have those key lines, you have those key lines, you're able to, put together your building blocks. So a lot of times I think there's this confusion that we shoot new ads all the time and we're shooting constant footage, which we're always getting footage. But I like to think, and this is something we discovered at Ready Set, John, you and I, was that 70% of the footage in most ads for most companies is what I call like key shots, right? So let's call it, if it's for mug root beer, okay, you're gonna have like shot of the root beer, close up opening, guy drinking it close. Like you have these key shots, right? And then you really sprinkle in some new shots around it. It's almost like when you find the winning formula for the ad, every ad is almost the same in a sense, just your entrance to the ad changes because you're trying to target.
Is what you're really saying is iterations over an obsession with new concepts?
Sure. Yeah. So like, let me show you how I think about it
Yeah.
a little bit real quick. One sec. So I like to, one thing that's really important in performance marketing is formatting, right? So like everything, if you think about performance marketing like a game of battleship, okay, you don't want to just throw a bunch of darts at the board and hope you hit one. You want to try to create a heat-seeking missile. And you do that through ad formats. And when you do that, you have different things that you're measuring. So for example, let's call this delivery 1, okay? You're going to test 2 opens that are a little bit different, right? Because you want to have some juxtaposition so that like you are getting a learning from it. If they're both very similar, you're not going to learn much, right? And then you have 3 headlines that you're testing on each open with 1 body. And so let's just say, for example, we launched this, right? And the body converted really well, but the thumb stop, and the thumb stop is the first 3 seconds of your ad, right? You want it to be, in my opinion, above 30, 35%. I've seen it as high as 60% in my life, but above 35% is still a really good thumb stop. So let's say that our body converted really well. The CTR was good, but we weren't getting enough people into the body that was converting well. So for delivery 2, what we'll do is we'll create 2 new opens and 3 new headlines. And we're trying to get people, more people into watching the body because we know it's going to convert. And then
talk to us about, just define for everybody when you say the word open, when you say the word headline, specifically what we're talking about.
Sure. So like an open, so for example, an open might be a split screen of a guy wearing another brand and then a guy wearing True Classic, right? Another version of an open might be like the guy coming out of the closet and the girl going like, oh, I like that shirt, right? Like a reveal in a sense. And then our headlines for that might be like, 3 reasons why guys are switching to True Classic, or 3 reasons why you need to get rid of all the shirts in your closet, or things like that, right? And so let's just say that body 1's doing well, and let's say that the winning open from delivery 2 did well, okay? So the thumb stop's great. We want to keep building upon that success. So for delivery 3, we're going to take the winning open from D2 and the winning headline from D2, put it on the body from delivery 1, yep. And we're going to create a new open that's similar to the winning open and create 2 more headlines. So the goal here is you're trying to make like a super ad. So anytime I like to say when you see a crack in the ice, you want to keep pounding even harder, because I think a lot of times people will throw things out and say, oh, it didn't work. Well, okay, well, what elements of that ad did work? Did the thumb stop work? Did the body convert? There's a lot of things you can really open up, but the more formatted you make your ads, the more success you're going to have. Even if it's not a success, because you have created a format, right? You have a better understanding as to why it didn't work, which is a great thing to know too, right? So, like when it comes to delivery framework, I really like to look at it like, so we have our delivery, and then once it's out, I would say, this is a very controversial thing. Different companies do different things. I think after a weekend, I know if it's a hit or not, right? So you're analyzing.
Well, pause on that real quick. A lot of people might ask you, and that benchmark you gave on thumb stop is really helpful. So I want to do that on ROAS and click through and everything.
Sure.
But when you mention a weekend, what kind of scale or spend do you like to see? Because there's a debate developing right now that had been settled that's been kind of reopened, where it's like, look, you need to put X number of bucks behind each ad to force spend to make sure it's working.
Sure.
Now there's a sort of growing chorus of folks, especially as a creative gets cheaper to make a lot of little things, that says, no, throw 2,000 things at the wall, let the platform figure it out, and don't discriminate.
Sure. It is a lot better these days. I know that like I'm a believer in broad targeting. Like I believe just let the creative kind of, if you make formatted creative for specific customer segments, let's just say it's like bloating, a girl who deals with bloating, or a girl who deals with skin health, or a girl who deals with spending too much money on her vitamins, right? Like when you segment each customer, just let the algorithm do the job. It's going to find those people with the right piece of creative. But it's a very weighted question, because I've chosen never to learn the media buying side of things. I have a deep understanding of it. If I look at, an ad manager, I'm like, something's wrong. This doesn't look right. But I've chosen never to learn it because I would become so hyper obsessive with turning on ads, turning off ads, pumping up ads, and it would keep me up all night. And so I let the
What
pros.
do you look at when you're in? You have mentioned to me that you don't like to get fancy with all these analytics and attribution platforms. You're an ads manager, and you guys spend a lot of money a month. So I think that's really interesting for everyone.
Sure.
What are you looking at? Talk through the metrics. What's your sort of paramount metric? What do you like to see it at? And then click through rate, other stuff.
Yeah. So every company has a different kind of different metrics they're looking at, right? So as a clothing brand, we have high return rates. It's just the way that it is for any clothing brand. And so we look primarily at return on ad spend, or ROAS, for us, because it's really important that you have enough cushion for you to compensate for those returns. Initially when I look at an ad, I'm not looking at ROAS. I'm looking at thumb stop first. Thumb stop's important because for me, if I can't get if I'm not putting out a thumb stop that people are interested in, then I know I'm not like going down the right rabbit hole, right? And so, okay, my thumb stop's good. Now it's like, okay, my body's not converting. So now I'm looking at my CTR, and my CTR is my click-through rate. If my click-through rate's good, well, then people are liking the body of the ad, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're looking at ROAS last. There's so many variables like lifetime value. Like if you want to be in a
and real quick, sorry, you mentioned the click-through rate. Like, can you give us a rough, if you have one, if you don't, that's okay. Like
sure.
A rough guide. Every company's different. What you like to see it at.
My metric that I like is anything, and I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. I like anything above 1 to 1.5%. I like to see from a conversion rate standpoint, anything that's above 5%. I keep the bar pretty low because I deal with such large budgets that when you scale an ad, like if we decided to not scale our ads, right, and just spend, let's call it like $50,000 a month, we'd be, probably an extremely highly profitable business, but we wouldn't be making as much money. And we make more profit because we scale so high with a less ROAS target. Does that make sense? Like,
it makes total sense.
There's a big like an ad might start off at a 2.7 ROAS, but when you spend $100,000 a day on it, it's going to obviously come down because your audience is going to hit its max capacity. There's so many reasons why it can happen.
It's interesting. ROAS is your main metric. It is for a lot of people. It's also semi-controversial in that folks say, well, that doesn't take into account, your gross profit
Sure.
and a whole bunch of other things, and it's fuzzy and the platform cheats and all this. What do you say to that?
Yeah, so that's great. So I know that there's fancy tools like Triple Whale, and I think we even got a Triple Whale award this year, or Motion, and I like Motion a lot, but I like to go off ad manager data, and I do look at all the other platforms, don't worry, but Facebook's going to ultimately optimize for Facebook. So at the end of the day, I'm looking at that platform first for my key metrics, because Facebook doesn't take into account what it sees on, Triple Whale and things like that. It's going to optimize to what Facebook sees as being the best. Yeah. And then I go and take a second look. And sometimes I'm pleasantly surprised. An ad I thought wasn't doing good because Facebook told me the ROAS is like 1.1 on Triple Whale is doing crazy numbers. So, it's almost like sometimes it's the opposite. Rarely, it can vary, right? But again, my job is to get people to the website and to get people to buy the product.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's just to get people to the website. And then it's up to another team to create landing page. There's a whole world of landing page conversion teams that focus on, okay, now that we've got you here, now let's get you to buy not only the product, but how much, and get your average order value up. And that's something that,
all that, yeah.
100%. And that's something we think about internally. And I thought about a lot is, as the costs rise on Facebook, as an advertising platform, you have to think about your AOV, or your average order value, and you have to increase the amount of obviously product people buy so that you stay within that, your target ROAS range, right? So
I want to let you bring back up the thing you had, because I
sure
interrupted you there. There's also something that Eric. Let's see if
what
I
was
can.
It?
My microphone's being funny again. Thank you for bringing that. Yeah, I'll show you after, but I can describe it. Eric Seufert, the analyst, who's actually going to be on our next screen share, he talked about how pre-ATT, like 2018, years, wanted to segment, like, let me build an ad for this segment and tell Facebook this is for this segment of people who like this, this, and that, and their dads who are in their 50s, whatever. And now it's like, no, give up. Broad, let the algorithms work.
Sure.
We have
do
a lot of like little ads that can go find their segments and let like the network work. Yeah.
I'm going to speak on that though, because I believe in broad targeting, but we have the most intelligent. I've been fortunate enough to have such amazing mentors. Aaron taught me a lot about the fundamentals of ads, and my boss here at True Classic, Paige, she worked at Facebook, and she's like, I thought I was a data analytics guy. Like, she is on another level. Like, she breaks down everything at such a micro level in such a great way. And, the key is not like getting data, it's how you interpret it, right? So we had so many great conversations about interpreting that data, but the long story short is the media buying team at True Classic is one I've never seen before at any other company. I mean, we have like 3 or 4 people that work on it, and it's highly detailed. We have some that are broad, some that are more focused. We have membership. I mean, it's a whole nother level that I can't even speak on because I'm not a media buyer. But I know that, like I said, I've seen a lot of ad managers, and it's like a whole nother level. So,
Amazing. I want you to bring back up.
Sure.
And it shows because you guys have been absolutely killing it.
Yeah, I would say there's three big players in the space, in my opinion, personally. It's True Classic, it's Ridge Wallet, and it's Dr. Squatch. Those to me are the 3 big, obviously,
in terms of crushing media buying, or
just understanding, growth at scale, right? And they're all great for different reasons. But anyway, so we analyze the data, and then based on that, we write a new script. Our editor will then, by the way, editors are the unsung heroes of advertising, even in television and everything. Like, I can send an editor something and it comes back and it's just unbelievably better than what I expected it to be. So shout out to editors, but I'll have the editor make one variation. And we go back and forth till we're happy. And then it goes into a review process for QA. And, normally this would go to a branding team. They can kind of give us their notes, and then it deploys and it goes live over the weekend. And I think most importantly is to really run a successful performance, to have a successful like growth strategy. While one ad is being edited, you want to be writing your next ad. And so this is what I would consider like a creative timeline for a small company, where you're maybe putting out 1 delivery a week, right? And then you're writing your next one. That one's in editing and it comes out the following Friday. We at True Classic, between Michael, who's a CS here, and Nicholas, who's kind of does more of our studio high level stuff, we're doing like 10 ad sets a week. Like, how
different are each of those? So you're saying that's helpful also. So between the 3 of you, the shooting, the editing, the concepting, you're getting about 10 ad sets done with each sort of a different core video opener, or how iterative?
Sure. So I think it just depends. Like, we're a very seasonal company, right? Like, so t-shirts are our bread and butter, our SS crew. But like when we're launching, like activewear is a new, it's not new for us, but it's a new goal for us to grow. Jeans has been a big one for us. Our stretch comfort jeans, amazing products, and something we're finding a lot of success with. But we're got to a point now. We've been fortunate at this company where we have so much data we're sitting on. We're talking about years and millions of dollars of data that we don't have to really learn much. And so what we're really doing is we take some shots in the dark, but a lot of what we're doing is, like you just said, adding a new open, or maybe like, trying some new headlines to just increase the thumb stop. So it's not as, we're not making like entirely new ads all the time, but we do.
How many of those 10 ad sets on an average week in the, are like pretty damn new. Like the whole thing, it's like, oh, look.
I'd say one or I'd say two. I'd say
Yeah.
two are new. And then we're also, but most of it is mores. I categorize them as mores, right? So for us, we like to, just try to improve what's already working, which goes back to kind of that delivery framework I showed earlier. I think a lot of people spend too much time running away from something that's working versus like, no, if I see something working, I'll run towards it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, actually, leave this on the screen because I wanted to ask you about that too. I feel like so much of what seems to be working as I look through foreplay, what's running the longest is this idea of the dad bod is sort of the core of it. And we have a lot of clients at Ready Set that are like, this one thing really works for us. Sometimes, and this is more regrettable, it's an offer. It's like every time we do discounts, it works, et cetera. But what do you say when you're having a drink with a friend who's doing what you're doing, or you're in an internal team meeting and it comes up, we've got to get away from this one thing. We've got to find other things that work. Or, and then the other friend is like, no, like we need to make money this year. Let's stay with what works and iterate on it.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I think this is the most unique company I've been at because we spend so much money where you hit these maximums, right? We're still profitable for dad bod stuff, but it's a matter of like, if our goals are to increase our spend in Facebook ads, we have to find new people and what I call new problems to attack. And that's how we increase our overall spends. And keep in mind, we're spending a lot of money. But I have a really unique perspective in that I don't view True Classic as a shirt brand. And I think what defines True Classic as a success is it's almost like Skims. It's like a shapewear brand for men. We make shirts that are designed to be tight around your chest and arms, but have a little bit of room in the belly to hide your dad bod. And so in a sense, it's giving guys a sense of confidence. And so I think, the big challenge is guys aren't in really the business of buying shirts. We're not really like avid shoppers for clothes, or at least most guys are. So we need to convince them that the shirts in their closet are stupid and why ours are better. And it really comes down to our fit. You know what I mean? And I'd love to say we always are testing how to convey softness or comfort. But to be honest, that is the hardest thing in performance marketing to convey is softness. So we like to say they buy the shirts for the fit. And when they have the product in their hands, 99% of the reviews talk about the comfort. I
love that you're bringing this up though, about the shirts in your closet, suck, because you're introducing a problem. And honestly, the shirts in a lot of guys' closets do suck. They're baggy. They're from high school. They've got holes in them. And so I think everyone out there that's trying to think, how do I break out of what I've been doing? That can get to a shallow point of like, well, let's try a different type of actor, or let's try a different line or different value prop. Look how different. But actually, if you can come up with a different problem that you're solving, even if it feels a little far-fetched to you, and that the closet one's perfect and right in the wheelhouse of True Classic.
Sure.
I think that's a nice place to anchor, and a whole other tree can grow out of that. But yeah, go on with this.
100%. So these are not ads all made by us. Some of these are made by agency partners, but I think just wanted to give you guys just kind of an overhead. Like, so for us, when we lead with the problem with other shirts, like, so I threw away all my old shirts after trying this. Like when we tell you why your shirts suck, like they're too tight, they're too short, they have holes in them, they're too baggy, and then tell you why ours are better, we find an extremely high lift. Like this is where we see the most sales come from. Like avoid these three things when buying men's shirts, or you get rid of your old shirts because they don't fit right, or they're too big, too baggy, too loose, etc. And that's why I made this switch to True Classic. And then you counteract that with why our shirts do all the things that the other shirts don't. They fit well, they're soft, they don't shrink in the wash, they have their collar stays, no tags, etc. And another thing that we've really focused on is that ladies are the ones that sell True Classic, right? So one of our biggest buyers, if not the biggest buyer, it is the biggest buyer, I don't know what I'm saying, is females buying for their husbands or their boyfriends. And so we really try to make ads. So we have two markets, right? We have females that buy for their husbands or their boyfriends, or we have males that are single that want to be more attractive to females, right? And so Dr. Squatch is They are the masters at this, of convincing you that if you smell good and you use their soap, you are going to get more dates and women are going to be more attracted to you. So whenever we do this across the board, some of these headlines are like dress less dad and more daddy. Like that is a top performing headline for us for the last year and a half, 2 years, long before my time. And so, yeah,
This is helpful.
I can't, unfortunately, John, like I said, I can't share too much, but I wanted to at least give your viewers a little bit of insight on what we like to do, what works, how kind of our brains think.
Yeah, I know. This is awesome, man. And on this point, let's talk about getting ads made.
Sure.
Right? It's obviously what Ready Set does. There are creative agencies that do it. There are influencers that do it. There's a whole distinction, a lot of people draw between influencer and creator. You can get into platforms, Fiverr, internal. You've shot stuff yourself. Like whether you're big or small out there, and maybe there's a difference. What do you advise in terms of like how to get this stuff shot?
Sure. I'm going to talk to the small guys because I think the big guys, when you have money, you can hire like UGC agencies and you can hire, studios and you can shoot stuff. You have a different kind of ball game. But the reality is that the ads that have performed the best for us are the ones that are shot on iPhones. They're dimly lit. They don't look great. They feel very real. And, those are things you can accomplish. You don't need much. Everyone's got a phone these days. And I think, I all the time will ask my wife to do a voiceover, or I'll ask my friend to, hey, put on this shirt really quick and let me shoot something. I mean, these are things we do at True Classic.
I see ads with you in them for, brands you worked on before True Classic and stuff all the time.
Sure. And I'll share one in a sec, like just to give you a perspective, because you'll be like, oh crap. Like people are now noticing that I'm the guy in a lot of these ads. And it's not because I want to be in them. It's because when you're a growth marketer and you're moving at such high speeds, sometimes it's just easier for you to do it yourself rather than like write the wild lines and send the product to the UGC and do all these things. You're like, screw it. I'm just going to shoot it. And I know it'll be done by the end of the day. And to be honest, it doesn't take very long. What takes long is really just writing out your script and what you're going to do and your shot list. And once you're done with that, it's like you pull up your phone, you bought a tripod, like it's pretty simple stuff. So,
all right. So options for the small guy, and then I do want to see the one that you made.
Sure.
Doing it yourself, which we can talk about when you show that. What are some other options? Let's say you're spending $50K a month, $150K a month, and you want to get 10 ad sets a week, but how do you do it?
Yeah. So there's two types of individuals. There's influencers and then there's UGC. And I think a lot of times brands want to go after influencers. These are people who have a large following. They shoot really well. They're going to cost you more money because they have large followings, even though you're not using their followings to promote your product. And I'm not talking about like mega influencers. I'm talking about people with like 30,000, 50,000, 100,000 people that follow them. They're going to command more money because they're like, oh, well, some of my followers might see this in your ad and maybe there's some sort of, a reason why I might buy your product, like an endorsement, right? I go after what are called UGCs. So they're people who you find on like Backstage or you find them on Instagram. I find people on TikTok all the time. I'll find like a mom that's just talking about, whatever. And I'm like, ooh, this girl's great. Like, and all I'm really looking for is like, can you say lines to camera? Do you know how to kind of like shoot something relatively well? And you have to do trial and error, but sometimes the things that you think don't look good are the ones that perform the best. And so what you're really just looking for is like authenticity, and you can get these people for $250 to $300, right? And so I just think that there's this misconception that you need to have these large budgets. Like it's better to get more UGCs. Yeah. And then, our joke always is if I send out 5 requests, so like 5 different, same script to 5 guys, right? I'll use one guy's voiceover and I'll use 1 or 2 guys' shots. It never lines up with this guy who used this voice and this shot.
That's fascinating. So one guy will be really authentic with his voice and emphatic, but not so great with the shots. And then 100%. Someone else, you'll do that. That's really cool.
Yeah. And I separate them out. By the way, I separate these out. I want to be clear. Like you want to separate out your lines to camera. So like, let's say 10 lines to camera and 10 different shots. So then that way you have building blocks. If they're saying the shot, their line in the shot, they don't do the line right, or the television's going off, or the laundry, or what. You
I think
can't
the line
use
to
that
camera
shot.
is like real acting. Most people are terrible at it. Yeah.
Sure, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I want to see your ad, man.
Yeah, so I've got a lot. I can't, like I said, I can't share all too much, but I'm going to share as much as I can. So here's just like a very simple ad that I did in my car for one of our athletic shirts, and this thing took probably an hour to shoot. Our editors took about a couple hours to put it together, and it's performing really, really well. Sorry, I hit a glitch. Give me one sec here.
That's all right.
If you go to the gym, I'm going to put you on to one of the best lifting shirts. These activewear shirts from True Classic hug your arms and your chest so you look shredded as heck. And it's even looser around your belly to hide your dad bod. Not to mention the material is buttery soft, super stretchy, moisture wicking, and it comes in 12 different colors.
So, I mean, you look at that and you guys are, most people might cringe at that. They're like, oh, that's like not very pretty.
No, can I say what I love about it? I don't think it's cringy at all. It's extremely, what do we learn? Useful information delivered uniquely. It's like every second of it, you are learning something. It's the same reason you watch organic content a lot, right? So it's not arm wavy. It's not a TV commercial with like, what is this even for? It's literally, this is what this product is. This is what it looks like. This is what it does. This is what it does. This is what you'll get. This is what you'll feel like.
That's really important to note, John, is that most people don't watch an ad over like 6 seconds, 7 seconds. So you need to tell them why your product is different than why I shouldn't buy someone else's product. So we try to, after our thumb stop or our hook, we then try to, in those last 3-4 seconds we have before they potentially are going to leave, we try to then emphasize, it fits tight around the arms and the chest and it's looser in the dad bod. And so then that way, like, ooh, this is different. You're not just trying to sell me like cool clothes. This is about the fit. And generally, if we can get them from there, they will convert.
Well, I want to ask you about the selliness because I think about this a lot, which is, well, let me just ask you directly. Ads where it is a person telling a I, me story. So let's say, and I'm sure you've tried this. Let's say it's a dad and it's as I got older, blah, 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 about my body, this and that. I not mentioning True Classic for 10, 20, 30 seconds. And it's like, anyways, I found this.
So that's an interesting,
yeah.
100%.
That's very different, right? Than like sell from the.
Yes. And I know where you're going with this. So that's like influencers, right? Like, so people will say, most brands like to just send their product to influencers, pay them a bunch of money and then get their stuff and then put them out as ads. And the issue is that those videos don't work hard enough. And so they do really well on organic social, and you will get sales from those because it doesn't feel so salesy. But from a conversion standpoint, it's going to take way too many people and too much money, because you have to spend money to have more people watch it, to make sense for your business. And so, because like I said, most people are out after 6 seconds. So if a girl's sitting there talking about, whatever, like her showing you her house and her aesthetic before she even gets to the product, I'm already gone. I'm already out. I left. Yeah. Because I'm not choosing to watch this. I'm being forced to through an ad.
I guess what I'm more getting at, and just curious, I feel you guys run so many ads. I wonder if you've tried it there, which is not,
Yes,
here's the house, but it's like really leaning into the problem. Like there is an argument for this, which is like, oh my gosh, wait, this is a problem I've been having. A guy who's like, open, and he says, last night I went out to dinner with friends, and as I walked into the restaurant, I looked down and I'm like, I've got to do something about my belly. There may be a person watching the ad that feels that way, that wants to hear what happens next.
So we do that too. So like, that's like more of like a setup, right? Like, so like you'll set it up where someone's like, those ads actually do the best, where you're like, I hate going to the grocery store, or like, I hate going to the grocery store because my kids are crazy. That's when I found Wild Alaskan Company, and they make my life super easy. I can eat healthy on a budget, and I know it's fresh caught seafood. Like, so you're kind of adding a little bit more personalization to it, which to people, those ads tend to do the best.
That's, by the way, a great example of what we talked about with Broad, of like micro segmentation. New dads with young kids who, kids go kind of crazy at the supermarket. Like that's the perfect ad for them.
Yeah, exactly. You show like a kid crying as your thumb stop is a kid like, crying in the shopping cart, and the mom's just like, what is going on? Right. Like, so there's things that I think brands secretly want those ads to work better, the ones that are maybe more storytelling. But we just live in such an attention deficit. We have so many problems watching anything over 5 seconds. Like, I tell my editors, if something doesn't happen in the next 2 seconds, you need to either like jump zoom, or we need to cut to the next clip or add another clip. Like every 2 seconds in my ad, something has to happen. And it could be just like I said, a jump zoom, or it could be like, it doesn't have to be so dramatic as like a new clip or something crazy. But
we say the same thing. We think in milliseconds. It's like, yeah, if you have a beat that or 2 seconds is a great number too. They're gone.
100%. And I think on that note, like, it's not to say that like studio ads don't work. We actually do have some studio ads that do work really well, that are very, well shot. It's just that, the difference is like a good performance marketer will have 1 hit out of 8 deliveries, right? I like to set the bar a little higher, like 1 out of 4 or 5. But in studio, like, you don't have that luxury. Like, it's so expensive to shoot something that like you can't make 10 ads in a week. You're
that
like,
1 out of 8 though, man. It's so painful and powerful because so many executives and a lot of folks out there just don't want to believe that. It's like, give me an ad and then it should work, right? That's why I paid for the ad. It's like, we all wish that were the case, but like, if every ad worked or every third ad worked, we'd all be millionaires.
And sometimes you get screwed. Sometimes your first ad out the gate is such a winner, and you're struggling to keep up with it. Yes, 100%. So but it's, again, like, it's really interesting. It's an interesting time right now because influencers and kind of salesy stuff isn't working as well, just because influencers are so saturated. So it's a constant game that we're playing of trying to, like, I don't follow trends. Like, my ads, you'll never see me do something that's like pointing fingers up or trends or things like that. We try to just make evergreen ads, because the worst thing you could do is make an ad that's not evergreen. It crushes it for like a week and then it dies.
Some joke about some pop culture thing that just happened.
100%. Exactly.
I want to get to AI in the time we have left here. We got 11 minutes. Talk to us, or even better, show us sort of how you use AI. And I love stuff where it's not, I did a cool thing once, but like week to week, this comes up.
Yep. So I think the really cool thing right now is I think people are extremely intimidated by artificial intelligence. And the reality is it's the exact opposite. It actually makes your life a lot easier and more efficient. When you're making multiple ads every single week, you're trying to find ways to make you more efficient, right? And so I wish I could show this example, but it gives too much away. But like, one way that we use it internally is we upload our Facebook data. So if you go into the upper right-hand corner of your ad manager, export as an Excel file, you can upload it to ChatGPT-4 and you can ask it every question on the planet. My favorite thing to ask it is like, for example, I'll say, give me 5 insights that most marketers would overlook. And you'd be surprised. Like, it gives you all of this really cool information that you otherwise maybe didn't see, or even if you did see, maybe you forgot
about. It's funny when you told me this, you're like, yeah, but probably everyone's doing that. You're like one of the only ones doing that. We do it. GPT-4o that just came out a couple weeks ago got so much better at data analysis, and I think everyone will be doing this in 6 months. But yeah, y'all are ahead of.
I mean, everyone knows the obvious, like helping you make headlines or problems, or like, I like to add a lot of like another small thing. Oh gosh, what just happened?
We can hear you.
Okay, we're good. Okay.
Yeah.
It won't let me hit my notes. But I think I get pitched every single like AI platform under the sun. And a lot of it either isn't AI and they say that they're AI, but it's not, or it's super close. So for example, I think our job as performance marketers is to really, because it's so new, is to kind of trick the system a little bit. So for example, like I'm playing around with this tool now called I think it's called Arc Ads or something like that. And they make AI video avatars. And where I can maybe see that being successful for us is that it does look a little bit fake at the moment. But if you maybe shrunk that person down, put them in the right hand corner, and made them green screen with like some background, you would never question that wasn't a
lip
real
syncing or
person.
whatever. You
100%.
And also, that's all the worst it's ever going to be. It's going to get better and better. Yeah.
100%. Right. And it's honestly, I showed my wife some of it and they were like, oh my gosh, that she wouldn't have known. Cause again, it goes back to tricking the system. So like a really dumb example that I call it dumb because I don't know. It's something we do all the time. And I don't know, is I use this platform called 11 Labs, and TikTok has really been a big catalyst for us in regards to like using robot voiceovers, things like that. But I had a headline that said, holy shiitake mushrooms. And when you play it,
Holy shiitake mushrooms.
it doesn't sound right. So then I, as marketers, or where I see us in AI kind of taking a step forward is like with that video platform is you have to, you want to find ways to kind of game the system.
Holy shiitake mushrooms.
So obviously just changing one little word, it sounds
holy shiitake mushrooms.
Way better. And that might be a really small example, but
no, it's an awesome example. I'll throw in a few more examples from our end. Is just when you're typing that stuff into 11 Labs or whatever you use, and it sounds really real. I think voiceover is at like a 98% value right now, whereas a lot of other things.
I mean, they're even licensing celebrity voiceovers now, like with Gwyneth Paltrow and Snoop Dogg, and that is exciting for me because you don't have to pay for Snoop Dogg. I mean, you want to do it as a company officially licensed. You don't want to get the, because you will get in big trouble, but that's exciting.
Is that happening in 11 Labs, by the way? Did you figure where that's coming from?
I don't remember exactly where I saw it. I mean, like I said, I literally 4 times a week, I have meetings with different companies that are pitching me their new products. And to be honest, nothing is more that we don't use more on a day-to-day basis than 11 Labs and ChatGPT.
I think you're already using more than most people. I was going to say, speaking phonetically with that kind of software, if you want the person to say so freaking good, add 5 O's to the so. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. And that's where, like, I know that 11 Labs may not have been the best example, but like when it comes to like video platforms that we're maybe touching on and using, we might have the AI say a word that's like, holy shiitake mushrooms. And they're like, ooh, that their mouth moved weird. It looks too fake. So we're like, okay, what else can we get them to say? So you keep messing with different words that have a similar impact to one kind of, their mouth moves in a more natural way. So, you're trying to trick the system in a way to get it to give you what you want. But again, I'm very excited to where this is going to go. I don't, not to touch on it too much, but I don't believe that like AI is going to, this is my opinion, like take over the world or anything like that, but I think it's going to make marketing teams much more efficient. You're going to find 2 or 3 people who work in one department, right? Versus 30. So I know that maybe it's hard to grasp, but a guy who knows how to use ChatGPT 4 or any of these platforms at a very efficient level can make way more ads than 30 people could. Right.
100%. And I feel like it's not going to be a zero-sum thing where jobs drop off. It's going to be a super tool that lets, people just do more with what they have. And then God knows what kind of new industries or parts of our space will develop. It's impossible to predict.
Well, you guys are leading. You guys are doing a great job. Sleepless AI. I think
Thanks.
it's a perfect example of a small, nimble team. Deploying small, nimble teams that can do the job of much larger agencies at an efficient rate, or more efficient rate.
That was why we started Sleepless AI, is because there was a lot of people like, I know we should be using AI. We don't have time to figure it out. Most of it sucks and is not useful or not even AI. We just need some editors and designers to help. I want to end with and I'm so impressed, Talan, and admire the career that you've built over the past several years. I know you've been on the agency side, the brand side. What have you learned along the way? What would be your advice to somebody starting out or midway through a career as a creative strategist?
Yeah, I would say that as a creative strategist, I would just say that you don't need much to get started, right? Like I think we overthink this stuff too much. Sometimes it's like information overload. I think, you can shoot stuff on your phone. You can edit it in CapCut. You can, everything has kind of been done. So my advice is like, do some research on like, you can go to ads library on Facebook, see what competitor brands are doing. Don't copy
Shout out
them
to Corporate,
directly, and look at ads that are over 30 days old. You know, I know that brands are always looking for, you know, ads. Like if I was a young guy right now, I would make ads for brands that I wasn't even associated with, and I would send them to them and say, hey, you can put this ad out for free, and if it works, you know, give me a call. And you'd be surprised how many brands be like, sure, I'll run it. Like this is free, this is great, right? So yeah, I think it's I enjoy this career because it's a game. Like I've been asked, do you want to be head of growth? Do you want to be head of marketing? No. I want to just be the best performance DR marketing guy on the planet. And that's all I want to be. I don't want to be, you know, doing PowerPoints and spreadsheets. And
well, when you said something about the media side that's brave and different and interesting to me, there's definitely a narrative developing. We just got to have a couple minutes around, well, if you're going to be a creative, you've got to be a data, you know, you got to be in the data,
sure.
in the, you know, well, this is going up, you know, this hour by 3%, let's change it. And you said, you know what, I'm not a media buyer. That world is, you know, you're obviously watching Ads Manager, but it's not like your main gig. Like for folks out there that feel like I'm a creative strategist, I get authenticity in people and pop culture.
Okay.
Ads, like, do they need that? Do they not need that?
Yeah. So I don't dream about ads. I don't get inspired and do something. I wake up, I look at the ad manager, I look at, you know, Triple Whale or Motion or whatever we're looking at, and that tells us what we're doing that week. And then we all meet and that's what we're doing. And I think the word creative is such a misleading term because we're not, as much as we are creatives, we really need to remember that our main job is to sell and move product. It's not to win an award for.
It should be the main job of marketing in general, by the way. It's funny that we have to make the distinction.
It should, but yeah, it should be at the end of the day. But like, you know, that's the main thing. Like,
yeah.
And when it comes to data, people can feel overwhelmed by it. Like, honestly, give me like, you know, a week with somebody and I can show them kind of, you know, what they should be looking at, what they shouldn't. Because the end of the day, it's about interpreting that information. It's not just about looking at it. It's okay, now that we look at it, what do we do with it? And that's
otherwise
what
you get overloaded and it just bogs everyone down.
And that can happen to us too. You'd be surprised how many times we're like so overwhelmed, you know, my team and I, that we're like, oh, we almost get paralysis, right?
Yeah.
We're like, oh God, what are we supposed to do? So I think sometimes every once in a while you need to like kind of step outside the box, see what other people are doing. But it goes back to personal. Like if I, you know, like give the shirt to a friend, ask them to tell you what they like about it, what they don't like about it. And you'd be surprised you find like we're finding that people are liking our shirts that have man boobs. Like I never would have thought of that if I hadn't combed through all the reviews, right?
The reviews are such a gold mine of like authentic, real ways people think about it. Because every company wants people to think about things in terms of whatever ultra soft, but like how are real people really talking about this? Yeah.
Yep. And I think a lot of times the last thing I'll say on that is a lot of times people spend all this money and all this time on their brand to sell their product to this specific person. And then they come to meet me and they say, hey, Talan, will you sell our product? And they quickly realize that the person they thought was their core customer is not. It ends up being, you know, Jane Doe, who's a 54-year-old woman who lives in Ohio. And you made your whole brand for a guy who, you know, is 24 and likes going to Coachella.
And for whatever reason, would be the customer.
And if you can
go, sorry, we got to wrap up. How can people find you, reach out to you? You've been helpful with some.
Sure. I love talking about things. Every once in a while I will talk to small business owners on LinkedIn. Like this guy hit me up the other day. He was starting like I don't know, some sort of like product, and I'm going to meet up with him soon. You know, I'm getting older, so I like to help people. So you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, on Instagram. tmg.la is my website. It's nothing special. It's just a way to contact me. But for me, I really enjoy doing this. It's a game. You know, my day can be made or broken, depending on what the data shows me that day. So, you know, it's something that keeps me up, and I'm excited.
Well, thanks for doing this, man. I
appreciate it, John.
Valuable for everybody
full
here.
Circle moment for me, man. And I just appreciate you, John. You gave me a chance. I appreciate
you too. For me, you guys can reach me, John at readyset.co. We make lots of video ads for Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, for DoorDash, Robinhood, etc. And then we've got 2 other brands, Sleepless.ai, which is like execution, AI and other for editing, all the things, and Airpost.ai, which is AIifying, productizing a lot of what we talked about here, coming soon. Awesome. Thanks, Talan. I'll see you around.
Thank you, John. Appreciate you, man.
See
you
y'all
later.